Do you want an Uber Lilith killer? Do you also want to run Nightmare Tier 100 dungeons in under 3 minutes? Look no further. This Barbarian Season 1 Double Swing Elite Hunter / Boss Killer build is out of this world. Let's dive straight into it. What up team, it's MurderInc here, back with the Diablo 4 video talking about the incredible double swing ability for Barbarians and why, just like in preseason, it still remains the overall best build. It's just the easiest thing to say. It has clear strengths, clear weaknesses. We're going to go over all of that and much more today. Make sure if you want a build planner for this, head to the pinned comment down below. You will see a link to it as well as Discord. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out. Before we dive into the build, I have to give credit to 3 people specifically. So let's knock this out straight into the video. First person I want to give a shout out to, kind of putting this on the map for me, is T1B. He messaged me in my Discord in the video suggestion spot and said, hey, you might want to check out this guy, or these 2 people were running double swing. It's a little bit like your preseason build, but it's a little bit different, and they are doing insane things with Uber Lilith damage and tier 100 clears, like I said. Then I took the build, added some tweaks to it, pumped up the damage, and the build's so solid. So again, a huge shout out to T1B for reaching out to me and kind of helping me in providing the proper resources for me to actually see what I'm looking at. You'll understand exactly why I'm saying that. The next person I want to give a shout out to is, from what I can see, the founder of, I guess, what made this build popular in Season 1. His name's Gansui. Sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation of the name here, but he's the first one who has a Lilith kill and I guess put the double swing for Season 1 on the map. It's a little bit different from what I had in the preseason because of course the Barber's out and there's new Malignant Hearts, so huge shout out to him for all of the great testing he did, and also congratulations on the Uber Lilith kill. I'm going to show footage of course of what I've been doing in Uber Lilith to kind of take the build, especially in an opener, to the next level with some pretty beefy crits, so that's where we're going with this. The last person I do want to give a shout out to, where I'm going to highlight his tier 100 clear in under 3 minutes. Under 3 minutes. So if you can reset this dungeon, it's easy farming. Shout out to Chinese. Again, sorry if I didn't do well in the pronunciation there, for showcasing your tier 100 Seret's Lair. That's slightly different in Gansui's build. Nonetheless, both builds are incredibly impressive, especially because of the times and the efficiency of all the builds. So now that I gave credit where credit is due, let's talk about what I came up with that just did stupid numbers. Like I said, I watched the Uber Lilith from Gansui, I watched Chinese Tzu do the tier 100 Seret's Lair, and then I said, how can we make this even better? If you saw my last video about the best Whirlwind Barbarian build, if you want to play Whirlwind for speed farming, you already know what I'm going to say. We added Ramaladni's Magnum Opus to this monster of a build already here. This is how on my Uber Lilith, I'm creating up to 30 million damage in the opener. It's insane. Now, really quick before I dive into this build here, if you want to see the Uber Lilith specific build that I have, and like I said, I'll have a link below to the kill video of Gansui killing Uber Lilith, but the build that I've been using for Uber Lilith, haven't killed her yet, by the way. Not because the build's not good. The damage is definitely higher than the kill video that you're going to see. I'm just not good enough to clear it in the 4 or 5 hours I've been practicing it. The fight's really fun. I'm going to give it that. It's incredibly fun, but I haven't quite killed it yet. The numbers are just insane. Like I said, 20 million, 30 million crits, and I don't even have the best Barber Heart, which would be 3.1 seconds. If you're curious about that, I can make a separate guide for Uber Lilith because there are quite a few changes to the build. So let's dive into the overall build first. So what makes this build so strong, and how can it even compete with Whirlwind? Like I said, there was a tier 100 clear that we already mentioned that cleared Seret's Lair in under 3 minutes. That's how fast like rogues are clearing it. So how is Double Swing doing this? Because the key to this build specifically is it's an elite hunter and a boss killer, which means you can run by all of the annoying ads and mobs that don't really mean much. Granted, you don't get one shot, which since everything's been nerfed, you probably won't get one shot, but the build's output is just insane. Now, I didn't have the dust because I'm testing way too many builds to find the proper tier 100 Nightmare Sigil, so all I could do is showcase myself in, I think it's an 84 Sarah's Lair here, but it will do tier 100 as fast, if not faster than the tier 100 build showcased. So like I said, you're running to the elites, Steel Grasp, bringing them in, one-shotting them, moving on. And the damage output, again, is out of this world for Barbarians specifically. And if you're coming from something like Hammer the Ancients or Whirlwind, it takes a bit for those two builds to come online on bosses. Hammer the Ancients, not so much. It definitely has higher output than Whirlwind on bosses, but still it can be slow if you get unlucky with vulnerability procs. However, Double Swing has no issue. It's 100% vulnerable uptime if you know about how the skills work, specifically a Violent Double Swing. Hitting an enemy with both of the double swings makes them vulnerable for 2 seconds. You're doing this all the time, which means 100% uptime, not reliant on lucky hit whatsoever here. And it just melts bosses, which is nice because that's pretty much what's been lacking from every single Barbarian build. Now, it's kind of funny that this is the build, the best overall Barbarian build is the one that's getting buffed with the upcoming patch. When I say funny, I mean, again, Blizzard doesn't even understand their own game, and they're buffing the strongest build, like, for no reason. Like, yeah, it's gonna get better. Maybe you'll save 30 seconds on Lilith. Maybe you'll save, I don't know, 20 seconds on tier 100 Nightmare Dungeons, but the other builds need help. So what they're thinking with buffing this, the base damage of Double Swing, I don't really know, but whatever. They can do what they want. It's their company. Again, it's kind of this lack of communication here, but we're talking about the build here. So key important things to take away from, because of course you can just read the build planner. The first thing is going to be Outburst. We have Thorns in this build from 1 point, and this is where I got my influence from the Chinese creators I mentioned earlier here. They're using that 1 skill point to capitalize on the Revenge Glyph. Dealing Thorns damage to an enemy increases all damage it takes by 1% multiplicative damage up to 8% for 10 seconds. This is up all the time because you're constantly getting hit all the time, and grants plus a very high bonus to all rare nodes within range. I placed this perfectly for more physical damage and more armor. This build is extremely tanky because of the glyphs we're using. We have so many bonus to rare, bonus to magic nodes where we're just getting a ton of armor, a ton of health, and of course we have the maximum fury for the Ramaladni Magnum Opus unique effect. The other key things to note here is going to be what's required and what's not required for this. You do not need Ramaladni's Magnum Opus sword unique for this build. It's going to do way more damage if you have it. Pretty sure we all understand that by now, but you don't need it. What you do need is the Punishing Strike Malignant Heart. It's orange, I believe orange is vicious. Maybe I'm wrong, don't quote me on that. But what this does is, it gives us a source of fury generation here because of enhanced double swing. If it damages a stunned or knocked down enemy, you gain 25 fury. What Punishing Strike does, it has a chance to knock down enemies, and this effect applies through the barber. Whereas something like Concussion, let me see, did I take Concussion here? So I don't have it on this version, but we do use it for Lilith. Because Concussion only procs from the Barber Explosion, not from the hits, which is why I elected to move away from Double Mace and I added Ramaladni's Magnum Opus instead. If you don't want to use it, you can use Double Mace for sure. What's a step down from Double Mace if you don't have 2 suitable maces? It would be a 2-handed axe. Now for another layer of defense, we also have Invigorating Fury. Heal for 9% of your maximum life. For each 100 Fury spent, you're going to be spending Fury very quickly. You're also going to be gaining Fury extremely quickly because of this enhanced double swing talent, which means you're going to be healing often. This is kind of the direction we think Blizzard wants us to go in, where we're not just stacking a billion armor and damage reduction as well as health. We actually have some healing in our build here. So I capitalized on that and I used that to my advantage here, and you can notice it in the higher tier dungeons, making it a breeze to just go through. As far as the optimal stat rolls, that's going to be in the build guide. And I'm going to give you a huge tip right now. You will see this in the 4 bosses section of the gameplay loop in the guide, but here's a huge tip, and I learned this while fighting Uber Lilith for those 4 or 5 hours of attempts on it. You want to be at maximum rage or over maximum rage as much as possible. We have accelerating on the 2-handed, then we have limitless rage here. This is the key. Each point of fury you generate while at maximum fury, your next core skill grants up to 30% multiplicative damage. Then we have RMLD's unique, of course, which gives us bonus damage per point of fury we have. So how do we make this possible? We use our 3 shouts. We have Lunging Strike. Lunging Strike also gives us Berserking for a 1.5 seconds if we crit. We have a really decent crit, so this happens quite often here. And what I personally found with RMLD's is going to be 2 Lunging Strikes, 1 double swing, and just you're going to alternate between the 2. This is going to keep you proccing Limitless Rage and keeping your RMLD effect for your Fury meter at full the most consistently, and your attack speed is going to be out of this world. So it's like 2 clicks, 1 click, 2 clicks, 1 click, back and forth, and before you know it, everything in front of you is just going to disappear. Again, this is for bosses only. For elites, just spam double swing and they're going to be dead in 2 or 3 seconds. Doesn't matter what level you're at, even tier 100, they're just dead in 2 seconds. But for bosses, I highly recommend the double Lunging Strike into double swing, and not just spamming double swing on bosses until you reach 0 fury and then trying to build it all back up here. That's not as optimal from what I've personally found from my testing on Uber Lilith. Then keeping your rage always very high, and you will, of course, I believe we see the same concept with the Uber Lilith kill video that will also be in the description. So that's the build guide. That's pretty much everything you need to know. If you have any questions, of course, again, join the Discord. That's in the pinned comment and the description of this video here. There's going to be for in-depth explanations on this build guide. I guess we can talk about the weaknesses really quickly. It struggles with high density mobile mobs and ranged mobs. What do I mean by that? You guys know what I mean. The vampire type mobs that turn into bats and fly away, that's an issue because you already use Steel Grasp to get them to you. Now you have to waste another charge, and if another mob decides to do that, you have to run to them, and it feels kind of bad. Outside of that, the succubus that constantly backpedal are really annoying, but you, for the most part, knock down most of these mobs, so I have to say it's a weakness just because, but in reality, as soon as you proc the first knockdown, everything's dead anyways. So there's no possible way this can be as fast as Whirlwind, except for it is because of how fast it kills elites and how fast that it kills bosses. Those are the only 2 factors here. Whirlwind can just zoom by normal mobs and one-shot them on the way. Double swing has to group them up, or I mean, you can just run by them and not hit them at all, which is the preferred strategy. But once you get to the elites, double swing is going to kill them a lot quicker. But if you're one-shotting everything, including bosses, which means you're probably farming too low on Whirlwind, I might add. But if you're doing that, Whirlwind is going to be faster no matter how you try to compare them. So that's, I guess, the weak side, if you can even call it that, of double swing. But like I said, this is already done tier 100 under 3 minutes, so to say it's not a speed farm build would not be realistic at all. So that's going to conclude this. Make sure you take a look at the stat priority to make sure you're doing everything correctly. Make sure you notice the proper aspects, the malignant hearts that you definitely need. I think it's kind of weird that you need colored sockets on certain rings and necklaces, because what if you get like a best in slot ring, but it's not the color you need? Because you can't, I mean, you can give up the barber, but you don't want to. This is probably the one of them, of all the 3 hearts, the Barber and Tempting Fate you can definitely go without. Punishing Strike you cannot. You are going to need an orange slot no matter what, because this is a core part of the build that's non-negotiable. The Barber you can do it without. I know it's rare, you don't need it. Your damage will be fine without the Barber. The next is going to be Tempting Fate, which gives you increased crit strike damage when you crit, and it lowers your damage when you don't crit. You're going to be critting often, so it's an obvious damage boost, but you don't need it because you're not going to be struggling with damage at all in this build. Alright guys, that's going to conclude it for this build video. Hopefully you enjoyed and you have as much fun as I'm having. Again, let me know if you want to see the Uber Lilith build version of this, where it's doing stupid damage for that specific fight only. If you try to do it with, I mean, I'm not going to say you can't do it with this current build in front of me, but I am saying it's going to be harder because you're going to have to do more mechanics because you're going to be doing less damage. So if you're willing to do that and have the Uber Lilith fight take even longer, which it's a fun fight, I'm not going to lie, it's a fun fight. I'm not gear swapping, which is probably why I haven't killed it yet, because I'm not skipping phases like a lot of people. But overall, this fight is a ton of fun so far. So if you want to see that guide video, drop a comment, let me know for sure. That's going to conclude this video. If you enjoy this content, smash the like button, subscribe to the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.